Hello everyone and welcome to Real Talk with Renee and Steve. My name's Renee Eves and I am here with Steve Dundee Dixon.
Very happy to be here. Let's get on with the show.
Let's get on with it. So last week we just tiptoed in a little bit gently and shared, a little bit about ourselves. But this week the topics are serious and I think they need an absolute wrecking ball to come through them. So are you ready to wrestle some crocodiles?
Mate, we're ready to kick it out of the park. We're going to start off with a place called Beirut. It's in the Middle East. Many people have heard of it. There's a gentleman over there just recently who had $210,000 of his own money in his local bank account. One of his family members needed an emergency operation, so he had to get 35K. So he's gone down to the bank to draw out his own money, and they just gave him the finger and said, "You're not getting any money." So they are facing extremely tough economic
Why
times.
couldn't he get his own money?
Well, that's the policy the banks have now got in Beirut. They are holding your money. But let's march down why this has happened. Economic times are tough. He needs the money for an operation, so he's just spun around and healed at home. Gone and got a drum full of petrol and a gun, and he's gone back and held up the bank. Just like Bonnie and Clyde would have done in the old days in America, or Ned Kelly in Australia, but there's a big difference. They were robbing the banks to steal our money. This bloke's robbing the bank to steal his own money to pay for a life and death situation. I mean, who wouldn't do that?
Yeah, exactly. And I think when the squeeze starts to come in and it gets tighter and tighter, we see people do these things. I don't know who could blame him.
Renee, this guy now is a national hero.
Oh, is he?
In Beirut.
So they're supporting him.
Absolutely. What happened, he's in the bank, he's gone in with the gun and the petrol, and they've negotiated for 6 hours. They've given him the 35K. He's been escorted to the hospital to pay the bills, and life has gone on. He hasn't been charged.
Oh my goodness. Seems like common sense has prevailed at some end, but it's just a pity it had to get to that point, for him to get his own
Well,
money.
it shouldn't take a drum of petrol and a gun to convince people. Things should happen through negotiation. But the issue that we are facing, this is starting to happen in a lot of countries. So tell us a bit about what's happening in Australia.
Well, what's happening in Australia, I think you just have to look at the rental squeeze, right? So people are getting absolutely pushed to their limit. Renters, if you put yourself in the shoes of a person renting a property, their lease comes up to the end, they say, oh, look, it's going to be 150, 200 bucks more a week. Who can suddenly afford that out of nowhere when they're living week to week? So their choice is at that point, they either cough up the 150 bucks or 200 bucks, or they need 5,000 because let's face it, moving house, you've got to pay bond clean, you've got to pay the deposit on the new place, you've got to pay removalists, they cost a fortune.
You've got to change the internet, the electricity's got to be changed over, your licenses. I mean, $5,000, that's $8,000 before you pay tax.
Exactly. And when you think about it, that's actually best case scenario, right? So you find the perfect place, it's the same rent as what you're paying now, you get to move, you've got your $5,000 to pay. But that's not where the stress ends. You go to these open homes and you've got 30, 40, 50 people all applying for the same property. So we're getting into a situation where I've seen, and this is actually unlawful, you're not allowed to do, real estate agents should not be doing this. So they advertise a property for say 500 bucks. Someone else says, I'll give you 550. The other person says, I'll give you 600. Oh, well, I'll give you 600 and I'll give you 3 months in advance. How is somebody that's a single person or a single parent or a senior, how are they supposed to compete with, say, a married couple that are on double income?
Renee, they're not. I mean, I remember very much, so I had some people down at Sippy Downs just down the road here, mum and dad, 8 kids. They'd been living in the same house all of their lives with the kids had grown up there. They're integrated in the local school, the local footy clubs. They were hit with the same thing, 150 bucks a week extra. And this is going back a year and a half ago. They ended up moving to Nambour, uprooting the whole family, new school, new friends, the whole deal. So you then flow on to the homeowner. They've been hit with interest rate rises since May. And if you've got an average mortgage of $500,000 or $700,000, the fees are $472 extra a month for a $500,000 loan and $708 a month extra for a $750,000 loan. There's your 150 bucks.
Yeah, that's a massive jump. And I mean, the average mortgage is about 750, right? Yeah.
Done.
So there's your 150 bucks. So it's not really greed. It's essentially, by the sound of it, it's the system caving in. And much the same as what we saw, you just talked about this guy in Beirut. The squeeze has come in and something's had to give.
Well, at the end of the day, it's bad management by the banks and the political system in Beirut. And I'm sorry to say, we've got pretty bad policy happening here at the moment because the banks are putting up the interest rates for your mortgage payments, but they're not putting up the interest rates for you with money in the bank.
That's exactly it. And then the impacts to communities, mental health, it goes on and on and on. So it's a topic we really need to stay across. Now that takes us to where people are getting their information from. So when the interest rates go up or there's the latest lockdown or whatever's going on, people generally turn to these press conferences, to find out what's happening. So I watched something the other day and I just want to go over a little reenactment with you because I don't know if it's the blonde moment in me, but the penny just dropped. So what happened was I'm watching this press conference and you see our Premier, Steve's taught me very well. I'm no longer calling people names aside from Dictator Dan in Victoria, which I've been approved.
Yeah, you can do that. Nobody likes Dan.
But what's on all seriousness, so you've got the Premier standing there. Now, something I prepared earlier, not too well, excuse me. So they walk up to the podium, okay?
Here we go.
They're coming up to the podium.
Woohoo!
And they've got their mask on. Let's just talk through this and walk through it. They got their mask on. Okay, so...
We're here.
So you got a nod.
Hang on.
You've got a nod. Yep. So as they walk up to the podium, they take it off. Okay, and they do their bit. Speak. Basically, you can only exercise for an hour a day and we're going to tell you what you can do, be, have, see. Welcome to this. Now, they finish. Now, here's the theatrics of it, which I want to take you through. They step away into the position where they're socially distanced, they're not near anybody, they're in their own place, and they put the mask back on.
And here I come, I've just taken my mask off and I've slid into the shot and I'm now doing a bit of speaking, spreading my germs everywhere, gobbling hers down, but she's safe over there now. She's got a mask back on and so's everybody else, but we're all walking into the same area. I mean, these things are bloody ridiculous, but I tell you what they do, they are great for scaring the magpies. If you wear them here and you paint an eye on the back and scares the magpies away, they're very, very good for that.
You look like that Lifesaver, that show back in the day. I can't remember it, but anyway. But isn't that just absolutely ridiculous? You're stepping in to where that person just spoke and you take off your mask, you step away, you're away from everybody, you put the mask back on. Next time you watch a press conference, it'll probably never be the same for you again because you will now see what I've been seeing.
Renee, let's go down the path of a real press conference that you went to a few years ago. I think the police commissioner was involved. Tell us a little bit about that.
That was a great one, actually. So, yeah, speaking of press conferences, back in the day when I was very passionate about my social justice advocacy, there were a number of really serious cases going on. There was a police whistleblower who had spoken up about what was going on internally. He had a gun pulled on him. There was a woman that was a victim of domestic violence and her address was given out to the perpetrator by a police officer. I'm getting on my thing about it now because I was so passionate about getting these stories front and centre. They were really important. And what journalists were telling me when they were trying to, ask questions of police media were that when they pushed it a little bit too hard, they were copping a lot of basically like they were being difficult with them for the next week or 2 weeks. Like they weren't being as...
It's called payback and flack. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly what it was. And so their jobs were so difficult that they learned if they pushed too hard and asked the tough questions, they weren't going to find out the truth. So they started to pull back. So I said to one of the media organisations, listen, I know these cases and the situation inside out, back to front. I'm just going to go in there and I'm going to start, grilling the police commissioner and just ask the questions that everybody wants answers to. So anyway, I did that and I think we should play a little video so you can actually see what went on because I think someone needs to do this with our current government just quietly. So we'll throw to that now and we'll be right back.
Mr. Stewart, if I could, hi, Renee is here.
Hello, Renee.
An advocate for the victims of what I believe is going on. My first question is that do you accept, for example, charging somebody like Sergeant Rick Florey for the alleged release of a video that shows police bashing a man, yet failing to charge an officer that has released private and confidential personal details of a victim of domestic violence could be seen to be biased and perhaps not meeting the community expectations?
Renee, I can't speak for all Queenslanders in this situation. There will be those who will have a particular view. There'll be others who will have a totally different view from that again.
I'm asking for your view.
No, well, my view is quite simple. We work within the law, and whether that's part of our discipline system or whether it's part of the criminal justice system, so be it. We are simply always transparent in what we do.
You talk about that transparency, and I want to cover that because you see, you haven't been transparent in this scenario. You have not released the details of what discipline action has been taken against the officer that released the details.
That's right, because it's an administrative process, and that's an internal process to the Queensland Police Service, and it sits between the Queensland Police Services and the officers who are disciplined. And Renee, if you go back in our history, I think you'll be lucky to find any details of any discipline process.
Actually, we'll go back in history since you invite me to do so. So last year, details.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
There's a very specific question that I would like to have a conversation with you about outside of
If you don't mind me asking two more questions.
Excuse me, Renee, I wouldn't mind getting it back on track because we have a job to do and
Sure,
deadlines to
one
meet.
more question.
Excuse me, Renee, I wouldn't mind getting it back on track because we have a job to do and
Sure,
deadlines to
one
meet
more,
as part
one
of the
more
media.
question, because this is to do with domestic violence, and I believe it's a very important issue.
And it brings me to a point where journalists themselves, I think what they need is an independent person who actually goes in and does exactly the same thing Renee did, but asks both sides of the story. You know, those questions from the left and from the right. I mean, we need to know all the answers, because at the moment, we only get these one-sided stories coming out of mainstream media, which is pretty bloody sickening. It's not honest. And I think the people out there, they want the whole truth, and that's why we're doing this show.
That's it. And on that, the both sides of the story, it is funny because when I came out of that press conference that you all just watched, a friend messaged me and she said, "Oh my goodness, did you hear someone gate crashed police headquarters?" And I said, "Oh, no, I was just there. I didn't see that happen." And she said, "No, it's all in it's on Twitter, it's in the papers."
It was you.
It was me. I was the gate crasher, but how ridiculous. I didn't gate crash, you know.
Well, it gets better than that, because if you ask difficult questions of the government, there's one thing I can guarantee you. It's almost as good as going to Harvard or Yale. You're going to guarantee to get a job, but if you're with Channel 9 and you ask difficult questions of the Premier, guess what's going to happen to you? You're going to get a job in the Premier's department, because then you can't ask those difficult questions. You're actually working for her for $100,000 a year plus.
So there you go, folks. Ask the difficult questions, prod them, lean on them, and you might find yourself with a promotion.
That's what's going to happen.
And at these press conferences, they're usually encouraging people to, you know, socially distance, do their rat tests, and that's why I want to talk about the rat rort. Yes, you've heard it. That's what it is. It's a rat rort. So I have a few friends that are working on big productions at the moment, huge productions. In fact, one's got 700, the other one's I think got 800. And what I can't comprehend, help me out, Steve, but they are telling me they are still getting poked up the you-know-what every single morning before they go to work. Now, if they've complied with, we know what everyone's had to do to comply to go to work, they've done all that, and they're getting nose raped on the daily.
I think it gets down to the cost of these things. I mean, the numbers are pretty clear. 700 times 21, just on a daily rate, is $14,700. You do the 4 weeks on that, or 6 days, you're up to 88,000. 4 weeks, 352,000. If you go for a year, 4.2 million. That's just for one of the studios. But if you add them both together, you're looking at 31,500 a day, 756,000 for 4 weeks, or 9.8 million for a year.
Whoa.
So, I mean, this is a shitload of money for these rat tests.
That's very Rain Man of you, but you've done the figures well, and you're right. How on earth are these production companies, so you know you've usually got lights, camera, sound, now they have a COVID.
Yeah, but the real action, you know, lights, film and sound, and the action's in the money. Who's paying for this?
Yes, well, I want to know not only who's paying for it, because obviously these films are partially government funded, but I want to know, And I know profit's not a dirty word, but who is making the money from these tests? Where are these tests coming from?
I can't tell you where they're coming
Take
from.
a guess.
I know. No, just tell me. I can't stand it anymore. Tell me.
Well, originally it identified as the Wuhan you know what.
Oh, yeah, the Wuhan flu.
Yes, and that's exactly where these tests are coming from. Who would know?
Well, I tell you what, we're looking for sponsorship, and I can tell you what, we won't be taking sponsorship from the rat test people because they go against everything we believe in.
Absolutely, but there's a lot of money in it, and it's quite disgraceful when you think about it because, everybody's done what they have to do. Moving on to a slightly even sadder subject. I feel like we're being a bit doomy gloomy, but I guess we're just getting real. The passing of the one and only, the beautiful, the absolute goddess of goddesses, Olivia Newton-John. Who did not want to be Sandy when they grew up? Who didn't love that transformation?
Olivia Newton-John is just an icon. I remember everything about her, but I think what most people will always remember for a very, very long time is her support for medical cannabis. I mean, she was a warrior. You know, not only is she a beautiful woman, a great singer, a great actress, but what she did, this saved lives.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it even, speaks to her character and her spirit now that she's gone. I saw an interview the other day and they were saying in lieu of flowers, they want the donations to go to her husband. Was a pioneer in plant medicine. And she spoke a lot before she left us about how much value she got from alternative medicines. And I just think, what a champion.
Renee, I was very fortunate. I went to a medical cannabis conference at the Tweed Heads a number of years ago, and I got to meet Olivia's husband at that function. He's just a lovely, lovely man who's very passionate about what Olivia and him both were, saving lives, getting the message out there. This is a great alternative to opium-based drugs, and I just commend them both. And it is such a sad loss, and all of our sympathies go out to Olivia's family, and she just done a wonderful, wonderful job.
I know, and her friends are doing, a few interviews. I saw one the other day, and I had a little bit of a smile. Like, to be able to get a platform and actually use it to spread a message, and that's what it appeared to me she was doing. It was on Channel 7, and they were interviewing, she was Frenchie in Greece.
Yep.
And she slipped in there that she'd had the booster shot, and she said, look, I don't know, what happened or whether it was that or not. She didn't pin it down, but you can read between the lines. And she said, I couldn't walk, I couldn't speak, I couldn't talk, I had swelling on the brain, I was in hospital for 2 months. And, she's telling this story, and I was just, my eyes were tearing up because I thought, she's just speaking the truth. She's got a platform. Everyone wants to talk to her about, her friend's passing, and she's using that platform to spread the good word about what's happening to a lot of, people, unfortunately. It's the truth.
Well, the truth is always the right thing to follow. At the end of the day, that's all we can ask for as viewers of any media outlet in the world.
That's it, Steve. And it's a very sad loss, but what an absolute legacy she's leaving behind. And moving on to an exciting new subject, that of monkeypox. Yes, you've heard it correctly. Monkeypox. I'm sure you've seen lots about it lately in the news. What have you got to say about this monkeypox?
I've never ever been a great supporter of the World Health Organization for a start because I think they just get so many things wrong. I mean, the Wuhan flu turned into a thing called C, which we all know about now and travelled all around the world, but monkeypox, isn't it a really interesting thing? You know what the World Health Organization, are spending their days thinking about at the moment? They're thinking about changing its name to something else. God knows why, because we've got all these other animals out there. I mean, the monkeys, I'm sure they're very, very upset, and they've written a letter to the UN that was signed off by the apes in Africa. But how are you going to be? You've got swine flu, the bird flu, fowl flu, buffalo fly, and what's that other one?
Chicken pox.
Okay.
The chickens are going to be incredibly offended over this.
They'll be writing petitions into the government as quick as you can be, and the World Health Organization will have nothing better to do except changing the names of these bloody diseases. But more importantly, I mean, let's call it out for what it is, and let's just hypothetically say we're going to continue to call it monkeypox. You know, monkeypox out of Africa, 98% of people who catch Monkeypox are men having sex with men. They're the facts. This is in...
Aren't you going to dig yourself a hole when you say that? Just quietly.
No. I'm not digging a hole. This is in the World Health document. I just read it directly from the... I'm not making this stuff up. So 2% of people are getting it in some other way.
It's obviously the truth. And this is today's way where we almost, when you said that, I was like, oh, can he say that? But, you know, you think about on social media when you talk about the spicy C, you know, you get the little drop-down box that says you've, mentioned whatever it is, a little disclaimer that comes if you mention the spicy flu. I wonder if there's going to be like a new drop-down box about monkey
Well, I don't know.
pox.
It'll probably drop down, be bananas in the box, and there'll be other things that'll attract monkeys. I mean, who knows? I mean, seriously, this shit's got to stop. Get these people doing their job. Go and save the world from something, meteorites or bloody something else that's going to kill us all, because the world has stopped for 3 years because of these silly bastards. They have taken us down a path now where borders are being closed. People have been getting jabby things until it comes out of their armpits and their ears. Let's just move on and do something worthwhile. That's my advice to the World Health Organization. And governments, please stop giving these people money. They don't deserve any.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Steve. And, in all seriousness, they put out this propaganda about, they're not going to call it monkeypox because they don't want to offend people or monkeys or whatever, chickens. But when you think about what's really going on after the past 3 years, we've got a mental health epidemic. Like, it is absolutely diabolical. And I think when you look at the practicalities of when you're suffering poor mental health, all these stupid subjects like monkeypox get this attention. But you look at if you are really suffering from like depression or anxiety, the practicality of getting help when you're in that position, think about it. You're getting squeezed, right? You're paying an extra $150 a week, $200 from your rent. You're going, oh my God, the walls are closing in. Your mental health suffers. You then need to pay, $100, $120 to go to the doctor, to get a referral to a psychologist that costs $250.
Who can afford that?
It's just, so it just keeps going like this. And you go, at what point do we start giving attention to mental health? Because it is the biggest killer. And the mental health of men is something I think actually needs a lot of support and a lot of light shone on it, because men are traditionally taught to just soldier on, to get on with it. She'll be right. Everything's good. And it's not all right. It's not good.
Renee, you're actually talking to somebody who understands this really well. I mean, I've got a pretty tough hide. I've been through a lot in my life, but I got to a point in 2019 where I went downstairs to pull a gun out to shoot myself. Oh. I had world media on my doorstep for 3 days. We had helicopters flying over the roof, a drone, and I'd been portrayed in a bloody terrible way, and I felt there was no way out. I was in the fetal position on the floor of my shower, crying, praying to God, and the only thing that got me through was my wife, my family, and I had an elderly gentleman who gave me a call, and he said, Steve, he goes, listen, and Deb had talked to him, and she told him what was going on, and he said to me, Steve, what you're thinking about is a very long-term solution to a very short-term problem. And I would say to anybody out there, if you have got a mental health issue, if you are in need, call out to your neighbour, talk to your wife, talk to your friends. There will always be somebody there. And I mean this genuinely. If there's nobody there, give me a call, send me an email.
Oh,
I really
serious.
don't mind. I talk to people every day.
He really does. Some of these people, I say, Steve, he'll be on the phone for 2 hours to somebody. I think it's phenomenal the amount of time you give to people. But back on what you just said, the friend that said it's a long-term solution to a short-term problem. What do you say? This is genuine. I don't have the answer to this. What do you say for a man that's the provider for his family? These times have completely financially crippled them, and it's actually not a long-term, like the problem is long-term. Like they're about to lose their house. They're about to lose everything they've worked for.
Renee, I put a lot of soul searching into this, and we've all got to look at what we really need out of life. I mean, at the end of the day, if you've got food in your belly and you've got a roof over your head and you've got your family around you, you're a winner. You are a big winner. Everything else you want to achieve in life, you can do it, because the sun's going to come up tomorrow and the next day and the day after. As long as you're eating, you're getting that sleep with a roof over your head, and you've got your loved ones around you, you have won the game of life already. Anything else you want beyond that, you're just going to have to work harder. You're going to have to collaborate with people to make a difference. That's what I would say to every single person out there.
Yeah, I think we need to get back to grassroots. I saw a meme the other day, I posted it. It was a guy running, and he's chasing after this dollar bill that's hanging
Yeah,
down.
I've seen that
Yeah,
one.
and he runs and he goes to grab it and then he just collapses into the grave. And he's like, they're like, is that what your life is going to be? And it's just a little 10-second graphic and I went, whoa, what, like that is, it's very confronting.
I mean, think to yourself, you know, we lost a wonderful human being the other day, Paul Green. Wonderful football player, great coach, loved by everybody. He's taken his own life. He was affected by the black dog, and I think there's many people out there that, you know, these mental health issues are crushing down on it. Again, all I can say is ask for help. Call out to a neighbour, a friend, anybody you've got. It doesn't matter. And for us, we don't always know if somebody's suffering. You know, you don't know if somebody's got leukemia or a heart problem or whatever. You know, ask people how they're going and genuinely mean it. You know, that's what we should do as human beings.
I think, yeah, asking the question is one thing and then actually giving the person space and being prepared to listen, because it's so easy to catch up with someone. How's everything going? Good. Yeah, good, mate. Good. How are you? How's the wife? How's it? Good, good, good. I think it's actually about slipping into some genuine, authentic, real conversation. Like, no, really, not just like the are you okay day, like actually, are you okay? Because, you know, I think we've been separated and we've been in such a state of isolation that we've become used to just soldiering on, you know, by ourselves, when we're not designed to get through life as solo individuals. I think by design, we need community.
Renee, I think it gets back to family. People have become way too reliant upon government. You know, they think the government's going to solve every problem there is. They're not. I can tell you now, get used to the government doing less for you, because, you know, even the GP gap at the moment, you know, they're not funding that as they used to. And you're going to see things are going to get a little bit worse. But the good news is it's going to make us more resilient. It's going to make us more reliant upon our loved ones, upon our families. And you know what? That's what we should be doing as human beings. I mean, technology's all great, but when you go to bed and cuddle your telephone, it's not real good. You know, you're better off cuddling up to your wife, and you're better off having your family around you, because that's real.
It's absolutely real. I was going to say, well, that's what I did last night. I cuddled the old telephone and I thought to myself, okay, is this going to lead me into some dating disaster stories? I thought I'd throw that one at you.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Happy to go into it with you. We'll be right back. That's it. Well, as promised, I thought I would share some dating disaster stories, because everybody is going to sleep cuddled up to their phone because we've been segregated.
I know an inside run on this, so tell us about the octopus bloke.
Oh, the octopus. Okay, that was actually an interesting one. So I was going on a date and the guy cancelled, and I just thought, no problem. I'll just let him cancel. So I said, no worries, I understand. He said he was having an anaphylactic reaction to an octopus. So I didn't want to go back and say, oh, BS, or you could have given me something better. I just thought, I'll just leave it at that. No worries, I hope you're feeling better. Then he comes back and he says, do you know what I should do? And I said, well, go to the hospital. Like, and I'm thinking, okay, this is getting weird. And he said, oh, I just feel like I can't swallow or my throat's closing up. And I said, well, I don't know, maybe you need to take antihistamine. So we're going back and forth. And it gets to the point where I say, look, where do you live? And I knew he was local, but where exactly do you live? I'll bring you some antihistamine. Because at that point, I'm thinking the guy's, you know.
He could be dying.
Yeah, he could be dying, right? And so I've gone, okay, I'll bring you an antihistamine. So I get myself out of bed, get dressed, zhuzh the hair up, put a bit of lippy on, go to take the antihistamines to him, and I call and he's not answering. And then I think to myself, oh my goodness, this guy
He's dead on the floor.
He's dead. I've lost him. I didn't get there with the antihistamines. Come Sunday, didn't hear anything. And I thought, okay, this is either really weird or he really is dead. I'm now feeling like they're going to get this guy, they're going to get his phone, they're going to look at the last text messages. When you knew
the woman who didn't turn up with the antihistamines let this poor bloke die.
Yeah, I let him die. So for 2 days, I thought, oh my goodness, like, I'm that person.
So what happened?
Well, come Tuesday, I couldn't help myself. So I sent a message saying, "Hi, I hope you're okay. I just want to understand, are you weird or are you dead?" And he wrote back, "What do you mean?"
I thought it was going to be a whole lot funnier than that. I mean, the guy's an idiot.
So, no, it gets better. Then he said that would he be able to make it up to me and catch up for a drink? What would you say to that, Steve? This is what single women are
I
dealing
would have
with.
pissed him off long ago. He's gone.
He's gone.
Over.
He's gone. But he, not to be outdone by, I'll give one other story because I want to hear from you. If you are a woman and you are dating, I want to hear your horror stories because, girlfriend, I hear you. So, did I tell you about the fireman?
No, I wanted to hear about the soccer player.
Oh, no. No, that's a whole, okay, so I don't know which worse out of that. Okay, so the...
I'll go for the fireman. Give us the
Go
fireman.
for the fireman?
The women will like the fireman.
Well, the point is, he didn't turn out to be a fireman.
Just recently, the government has come out, and it's in mainstream media, that we're going to be hit, and it says very clearly, prepare for 6 months of rain. Like, it's coming. We've had 2 years of rain in a row. Our dams are at 88%, and we've got the Queensland government. They're out there at the moment talking about building a desalination plant right here on the Sunshine Coast. Or the alternative is drinking recycled water. Now, let me explain what...
Ew.
No, I got to explain what it is. It's a mixture of industrial waste and human shit. And you mix it all together and you put it through what they call reverse osmosis, and you can drink him up.
Are you serious? They're suggesting that people are going to be able to drink that.
No, they are, absolutely. You've got government ministers, and they've spent a fortune getting these plants ready to go.
Hang on. So who's for and who's against this?
Well, actually, that's why we're talking about it on this show. I want to know what the Australian people think about drinking industrial waste mixed with sewage. Because, you know, I get recycled water, and there's places where you do need to drink it. I mean, you know, if you're living on the moon or in the space station, I get it, because there's no taps and hoses and dams. But I'm very, very strongly of the opinion that we need to start building more dams, and there's places to do that, and I know a lot about water.
Oh, I'm parched thinking about it, Steve. I just can't even comprehend that somebody's going to encourage us to drink, well, secondhand water.
Yeah, well, I'd be really interested to know what the Australian people think. And I get it, there are places in the world we have to do this, but for this particular area, there's a dam called the Beirut Pocket Dam here, nice and handy. And we've got another one called Barumba, not very far away, and a water connected grid for southeast Queensland. My advice to the Queensland government is spend a couple of $1 billion up the size of the Barumba Dam wall. You're going to make that the same size as Somerset, hook the interconnector pipeline into it, and get really smart and put on hydroelectricity. So it's called clean green energy. You're going to have lots of it. You're going to have water security in southeast Queensland for the next 100 years. And we don't have to drink shit water or water that's got industrial waste mixed in with it. That's my opinion. I'd love to know what the opinion is of the listeners.
I'd love to know, because just on the face of it, I just want to, thinking about that, that's gross. I already drink bottled water as it is, but I just can't comprehend how anyone thinks this is going to be an idea. Welcome back. So we love to look to the US, if not for anything else, but sometimes a bit of a laugh. I have to admit, I've been following the whole Trump Biden, let's call it a saga. Now, when I say saga, I'm talking about the fact that all these platforms kicked Trump off, right? So he goes and starts his own little jig over here. Now, this is the hilarious part. He releases this video the other day. The mainstream media pick up the video. So it was on Sky News. Sky News then post that video that he made onto all the platforms that he was kicked off on. So I think it's actually, it's funny, but it's actually quite clever.
Well, the way Trump operates, and you can see it, I mean, you know, like, let's call it for what it is. You've got the President of the United States, which is Joe Biden at the moment. I mean, I doubt he can find his way to the toilet. I mean, he has problems putting a coat on. He can't read the auto cue lines on anything except, you know, he reads everything that's on him, and that's to his detriment. I mean, you know, I don't wish him any harm whatsoever, but he is incompetent, and Trump is the absolute opposite to that. I mean, people like Trump or hate Trump. At the end of the day, he didn't take America to any wars. Economically, they were on fire, and oil was cheap. Everything was moving along pretty well. Like the man or hate the man, if you had to pick out of the two, Biden's almost got us to World War III. How's that going for you?
Exactly, and everybody laughs at Trump, and I know he's a laughing stock, and they foo-foo him, but a lot of what he said was going to happen has happened, and he's the one that originally coined the term, I think, fake news, wasn't it?
Mate, there's so much fake news out in the world today, and again, that's why we started Real Talk, to counter the fake news. But about Biden and Trump in the United States, we're heading into the midterms, not too far away. Biden will probably, I should say the Democrats will probably lose the lower house and the Senate. And, Biden will be, not only is a lame duck president now, he's going to be even a lamer duck when he doesn't have the authority in the lower house and the upper house of the United States.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. And, Trump's saying it's all to do with technology. And I mean, technology, love it or hate it, it has actually caused an absolute chaotic situation over there. It's good for some people, but I think for many, it takes us further away from where we're supposed to be.
Renee, what I'm seeing with technology today is, and it's pretty bloody scary, and I'll give you an issue I read about recently in the paper. There was a young bloke and he's playing chess against a robot. And he's put his hand to make a move, and the robot's come across and crushed his bloody hand.
Oh my
Couldn't
God.
believe it. Lucky it wasn't one of those automated cars that's driving you while you're sitting in the passenger seat, heading towards the back of a Mack truck at 100 kilometres an hour, and forgets there's a truck there.
Well, I was at sushi the other night, and there was a robot at sushi. So we've ordered, and it's come up, and it was like something out of the Jetsons, and it's delivered me my meal, and I felt kind of weird. I was like, thank you. And then you've got to press its face and say done. And I was like, wow, this was a cartoon many years ago, and it's actually coming true right now. And I really do miss the personal touch. I think technology can be, of course it can be a positive thing, but the other day in a coffee shop, I don't know if you've seen, many of you obviously have, there's these, you wave your phone over the barcode when you sit down at a cafe. Now, I like to sit at a cafe, have a little yak with my friend, whoever I'm catching up with, and wait till they come and get your order, and it's all part of the catching up for a coffee. But you're sitting there and you're waving your phone over this barcode, and it interrupts the social flow. Anyway, so this elderly lady that was ahead of me, she was in the line. She couldn't do the scan, she couldn't do the phone, and she said, oh, look, I just want to pay for my coffee at the counter.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, just old school, right? So she's got $10, the coffee was, $5. She's put the $5 tip in the tip jar,
Good on her.
and 20 minutes later, she still hasn't got a coffee. So she goes up to the coffee machine, where they actually make it, and he said, oh no, you've got to order it from the counter. And she said, well, I've ordered the coffee. And he said, oh no, you've got to order it from the counter. And she said,
Mate, I've already ordered it, I paid and given you a $5 tip.
And I'm standing
What more
behind
do you
her,
want?
and I said, look, she was before me. I saw her order it. Anyway, 10 minutes later, she still doesn't have the coffee. So she goes back up there and he says, oh, she's just really, really confused. And I said, no, she's not confused. She ordered a $5 coffee, paid $10 for it, tipped you $5. She still doesn't have a coffee. She's not confused. But I ended up getting the coffee for her because I stepped in. But that just goes to show, when everything's automated and scanned and phoned, and it's all like, these people didn't have the ability, like her paying cash for coffee literally sabotaged their entire system.
Yeah, but I mean, it does get down to another topic, and it relates to cash. The Reserve Bank recently has come out and said they want to go totally digital, and they're going to have a process of going through that, which scares the hell out of me, to be honest, because I might be a bit like that old lady. I don't go through the self-serve checkouts at Woolies or Coles or any of those. I always go through where people are serving me. And the reason I do that is because I want to make sure they get a job, because computers don't pick up a paycheck.
I'm the same.
Those people behind the counter who serve you do. And it goes back to the old days of the petrol station. I mean, they're all self-serve these days, but somebody used to pump petrol for you. They'd wash your windscreen. I mean, these are all old-fashioned things, but I tell you what, it's good bloody service, and we actually interacted with each other. So I feel really sorry for that lady, because she should never have been treated like that.
Yeah, I did, and I just had to step up and say to the guy, please give her her coffee. I know what I'm like. If I've ever had to go through the checkouts and self-serve because there literally is no one at the counter. And my shop, there's sometimes no one at the counter. But I don't know about you, but I end up stuck there and pressing the buttons and so frustrated that someone's got to come over and help me anyway.
Absolutely defeats the purpose, but I'd love to know from the listeners out there exactly what you think about it. Do you think we should be a cashless society? Because it actually goes a step further than that. It gets down then to control. Because we've actually seen in Australia some doctors and other people have actually had their bank accounts frozen. I mean, what happens if you haven't got some Foley stuff at home? You won't be able to go and buy food. You won't be able to go and do anything. And what happens if the electricity goes off? And it does happen. You know, the electricity goes off, you're not going to use a telemachine. You're not going to be able to swipe your card on anything. You're not going to be able to use your telephone because you can't charge it. I mean, I think it'd be a really, really bad idea getting rid of cash at this stage until it's better thought through and they show us what they can actually do, because I think it's another big con coming our way real soon.
No, you've got a point. We are going into this complete and utter state of madness. That's what it is. It's madness. And only we can be the difference and make a difference by simply calling it out, by shining a light on it, by saying, hey, that doesn't pass the pub test. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, now what we're doing on this particular issue also, we've set up an organisation called One Axiom. There it is right here on my t-shirt. And it's .com. If you go to that landing page in the not too distant future, you're going to be able to get onto a whole lot of other social platforms that we can talk about real talk, uncensored.
Uncensored, that's it, that's it. We're going to say as much as we can right here, but if you read between the lines, we're going to say a whole lot more over there.
Just reach out. God bless each and every one of you, and thank you so much for watching our show tonight.
Just remember, I want to finish with this one. Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end.